Hey guys, what's going on? Mouse here. So, finally got the chance to test Thomas Andre and the new sets. A lot of you guys have been requesting this. So here it is. I tested 8-piece Infamy set, 4-piece Curse, 4-piece Obsidian, 4-piece Iron Will, 4-piece Obsidian. And each of the setups all have similar stats: 30k defense, crit rate at around 10.5k to 11k, crit damage around 130%, defense penetration damage increaser close to 15% each. So like always, I did a lot of tests so that we can get the average, the lowest, the highest, and so that we can get an idea on what's happening, check the patterns, and make sure it's not just because of RNG. So before we go into the actual results, I think it's important that I explain to you what we are expecting from these sets on paper. So let's start first with the Iron Will set that gives us a total of 33% defense. So by now, I think most of you guys already know how it works. So basically for Thomas Andre, this is quite nice because when Thomas Andre transforms, you're gonna get one stack. And if he releases the ult, you're gonna get another stack. So stacking it up to maximum is gonna be very easy for Thomas Andre. And also you will get increased ultimate skill damage 50% one time every 20 seconds repeatedly as the fight goes on. One of the things that you should know about passive defense percent is that it is also additive to other passive defense percent from your dimensional advancements, from the buffs, etc. And the ultimate skill damage increase is also additive to other skill damage increase. So let's first talk about the defense percent. Some of you guys might think that this is actually huge because that's 33% defense. But for Thomas Andre, it's actually not gonna give some game-changing damage increase because Thomas Andre actually already has lots of defense percent. From overwhelming power, you get defense by 10% and then stacking up to 5 times. You'll also get defense percent from the A4, which is going to be 16%, your ultimate transformation 20%, dimensional advancements up to 30%, from the weapon 16%, from other sources too, like the guild rank stats bonus, let's just say about 3 to 5%. So if you sum up everything and try to add that 33% from the Iron Will, your actual damage output is actually only going to increase by 13.98%. So that is going to be your base defense plus the 136% from the passives here at the left side. You can add more to this, VR1, this Million Fisher, things like those. But for the sake of this example, let's just use this one. So your total defense is at 236%. And if you increase that by 33%, you're only going to get from 236 to 269. That's only going to be 13.98%. Let's talk about the ultimate damage part because Thomas Andre actually also has lots of ultimate skill damage increase. From his A5, you're gonna get 125%, and from your ultimate itself, you're gonna get about 20%. So I haven't tested this shield personally because the testing I did not have the shield effect so that I can close in on the 125%. But you will see here 220k damage without the one-hit kill set, increased to 244k with the one-hit kill set. It's supposed to increase by 25%, but in actual, it only increased by 10.73%, suggesting that the damage bonus that we're getting from A5 is actually going to be additive to the ultimate skill damage bonus. And that's why the actual value or the damage output of the ultimate skill damage 50% here is not that high. So here in my example, we got 125%. If we add that ultimate skill damage increase, the actual damage output increase is gonna be just 22%. And if you add this shield bonus, assuming that it is also additive to this, it's going to be 20.41%. And if you go into the guild boss, which will give you 30% of the skill damage, you're only going to get 18% damage output. And if you add min A5, for example, 50%, that's only going to be 15.38%. So for this example, let's just use this 20%. And then since we tested this in the guild boss, and I do have the guild buff that adds 30% skill damage, that is bugged, by the way. That is not 10% actual damage increase, that is 30% basic skill ultimate skill damage increase. Okay, just to clarify that in case you missed my previous video. So we're only expecting 18.18% ultimate skill damage increase. So I haven't tested Charlotte yet, but I do know that Charlotte also has lots of ultimate skill damage increase from her kit. So at least I think I would say I wouldn't expect like game-changing damage output from that. But what about the curse set? And just a quick reminder, guys, before we proceed, the Season 8 of the Content Creator Program is about to end. on May 2. And just like always, you guys have to extend your support if you want to keep supporting me and if you want to keep receiving the codes. Once again, thank you so much for all the support, and especially to all our top 10 supporters, Mr. Bombastic, Usopar, always there, King Kong, always there as well, and all the NIDs here, you guys know who you are. You can change your nickname, by the way, so that I can also give you a shout out. Demo007, Ants, thank you so much for all the support. So Curset will increase your damage dealt, which is going to be additive to the damage increase and other damage dealt multipliers. So we have Obsidian 60% damage increase, that let's just say 25% per end game. And we do have a team fight here. I'm not sure if this is something that is gonna be same as those, because it's hard to close in and test this, because Thomas Andre in team fight mode, the user's damage dealt increases by 24%. So just for the sake of example here, we're gonna use it in team fight, and we're using a carry with 16%, so it's not gonna be up all the time. So this is just one example. So what we're gonna get is just 13.33% damage increase. And on paper, if we compare it with the Iron Will set, we're just getting about the same from that defense part. But of course, again, this is just one example. Every stat is going to be different, every setup is going to be different, game content is going to be different. But what I'm saying is that on paper, there shouldn't be much difference, but there are pros and cons to these setups, which I'm going to explain later in this video. But for the Iron Will set, you're gonna get some ultimate skill damage. But then again, this is just 18% for ultimate. Ultimate is just one portion of Thomas Andre's damage, because he has core attack, he has those bonus damage from explosions, damage comes from various sources. So this 18% is not gonna like translate into something that is gonna be far from what we have been using before. So at least that is what we are expecting on paper. But what about the Infamy set? So I'm gonna skip the Infamy set. Like I said, Thomas Andre's damage output is quite complicated. He's got basic skills here, and he's got core attack as well, and he's got this, I don't know how this one works, overgrowth, which deals light area of effect damage equal to 100% of Thomas Andre's. I'm not sure how this one works. And he also has ultimate. So when we talk about the Infamy set, of course, you're gonna get the basic skill and ultimate skill damage 100%. But do remember, this is gonna be additive to similar multipliers. If he transforms, he's also gonna get increased skill damage, like the absolute demolition and colossal crush increase by 100%. Just letting you guys know that don't expect anything that will like have an explosive increase, because this is basic skill and ultimate skill, and Thomas Andre also has those already in his kit. All right. So now for the results, I listed them here, took the average, the lowest, and the highest. So for the Infamy set, the average is 680, lowest is 650, highest is 734 million. But Curse set, the highest is 713, noticeable increase already. So this suggests that in terms of damage output, Curse plus Obsidian is giving better results on average, and the lowest is also higher, the highest damage is also higher. But for Iron Will plus Obsidian, we got a much higher average than the two, and the lowest damage is also higher at 727 million, and the highest damage is also much higher. So with lots of attempts, it's very easy to notice that the Iron Will set plus the Obsidian set is actually dealing more damage. But again, this only applies in this particular test, in this particular case. So other game content, other setup, other units, other artifact sets that you're going to be using, it might change the result. So from Curse set to Iron Will set, we got around 6.96% increase on average. The lowest damage also increased by 7%, and the highest damage increased by 6.2%. And from Infamy to Iron Will, we got 12, 11, and 9%. So based on my testing, if you use the same stats, we are expecting somewhere around 7%, 6 to 7% increase from Curse set to Iron Will set in that particular case in the guild pass. I would say 6% increase is not going to be game changing. However, there are other important factors that we have to consider when choosing these artifact sets. So firstly, let's talk about the Curse set. Although it would increase the damage dealt by 30%, it will also increase the user's damage taken. And if we are using Thomas Andre has to keep those shields up, not only to make the runs easier. Some of his kit actually requires you to have certain amount of shield. In some situations, possibly, it could affect the damage output. And if you receive more damage from the enemies, then you might lose those shields much faster. And if we compare it with Iron Will set, which actually gives us defense and there's no penalty, and if we increase the defense of Thomas Andre, his shield acquisition will also significantly increase, right? Because we added defense. For example, here, when using skill, it gains a shield equal to 2% of Thomas Andre's defense. The user gains a shield effect equal to 10% of their defense. So that is one of the advantages of the Iron Will set. In terms of just the damage output on that specific test, the damage difference might not be huge, but in some cases wherein the shield is going to be crucial, then of course the Iron Will set is going to be the better choice. Outside of teamfight mode, I don't think it's going to work well, because losing that 40% damage shot is going to be huge. However, let's just say in the guild boss, we used Hansemi, right? But there will be times wherein we're not going to be able to use Hansemi. So what's going to happen then is that we're going to have to sacrifice some stats so that we can maintain the 40% MP, add some MP consumption reduction, use other cores so that we can maintain that 60% damage dealt increase. And trust me, it's going to be hard to maintain that without an MP provider in the entire team. So that, I believe, opens up a possibility for the Infamy set. And the good thing about the Infamy set also is that after activating it, there's no more condition. You don't have to maintain anything. And we might even be able to use these kinds of core, which increases defense by 6% when MP is 50% or below. So there is a chance for this in team fights, I believe. That is gonna be something that we have to test in the future in actual combat. But for now, let's just leave it at that. So another thing that you might want to consider when it comes to these artifacts is that we already have good sets. I would assume that a lot of us already have our end game curse sets. So in terms of the damage output, if they have the same stats, there is no rush, right? However, also consider that it's also hard to reforge multiple sets because we have to reforge Sonjinwoo's gears, we have to reforge Kanae's gears, other attack gears. There's so many gears that we have to reforge, and it's not going to be that easy. So just in case you get a good stats of the Iron Will, you're pretty much going to get more stats from that level 100 gear, right? Let's just say, for example, here, additional defense 2.4k. But if we compare that to a level 78 curse set, the additional defense is only 1.8k. So that is something that we also have to consider. And also, I would say it's not gonna be worth reforging the curse set for Thomas Andre because we need to remove that increased damage taken. We need more of that defense so that we can make him more solid, more tanky, more shields. So the ideal set, in my opinion, is still going to be the Iron Will set in general. Even in other game contents that is not teamfight. Even more important because you're going to receive lots of damage. Like if you're trying to clear POS 20, you might not be able to dodge a lot of the damage. So that will help a lot in that regard. So yeah, overall, based on what I found out in my test, I think Iron Will is gonna be the best option. Although right now there's no rush, the damage output is not gonna change drastically. So I would suggest just using what you have now. They have good stats and try to farm your endgame Iron Will sets and then just use your reforged materials on other units that might need them. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope this video helped. And if you like this video, don't forget to press that like button, leave a comment, subscribe. That would help me a lot. Thank you so much and see you on the next one.